expect or require me to worry about her, and I didn't need any more problems than I already had. That afternoon, Mrs. Rossiter provided a stream of consciousness commentary to my work. She, at least, was just as always, plump, sturdy, kind, curious, and centered on the old spaniel Durwood. I wondered from time to time how Mr. Rossiter had felt about this when he'd been alive. Maybe Mrs. Rossiter had become so fixated on Durwood since her husband had died. I'd never known M.T. Rossiter, who had departed this world over 4 years ago, around the time I'd landed in Shakespeare. While I knelt in the bathroom, using the special rinse attachment to flush the shampoo out of Durwood's coat, I interrupted Mrs. Rossiter's monologue on next month's Garden Club flower show to ask her what her husband had been like. Since I'd stopped her mid-flow, it took Bertie Rossiter a moment to redirect the stream of conversation. "Well, my husband, it's so strange you should ask. I was just thinking of him." Bertie Rossiter had always just been thinking of whatever topic you suggested. "M.T. was a farmer." I nodded to show I was listening. I'd spotted a flea in the water swirling down the drain, and I was hoping Mrs. Rossiter wouldn't see it. If she did, Durwood and I would have to go through various unpleasant processes. "He farmed all his life. He came from a farming family. He never knew anything else but country. His mother actually chewed tobacco, Lily, can you imagine? But she was a good woman, Miss Audie, with a good heart. When I married M.T., I was just 18. Miss Audie told us to build a house wherever on their land we pleased. Wasn't that nice? So M.T. picked this site, and we spent a year working on the floor plan, and it turned out to be an ordinary old house after all that planning." Bertie laughed. Under the fluorescent light of the bathroom, the threads of gray in the darkness of her hair shone so brightly they looked painted. By the time Bertie had reached the point in her husband's biography where M.T. was asked to join the Gospel Airs, a men's quartet at Mount Olive Baptist, I had begun my next grocery list, at least in my head. An hour later, I was saying goodbye, Mrs. Rossiter's check tucked in the pocket of my blue jeans. "See you next Monday afternoon," she said, trying to sound offhand instead of lonely. "We'll have our work cut out for us then, because it'll be the day before I have the prayer luncheon." I wondered if she would want me to put bows on Durwood's ears again, like I had the last time Bertie had hosted the prayer luncheon. The spaniel and I exchanged glances. Luckily for me, Durwood was the kind of dog who didn't hold a grudge. I nodded, grabbed up my caddy of cleaning products and rags, and retreated before Mrs. Rossiter could think of something else to talk about. It was time to get to my next job, Camille Emerson's. I gave Durwood a farewell pat on the head as I opened the front door. "He's looking good," I offered. Durwood's poor health and bad eyesight were a never-ending worry to his owner. A few months before, he'd tripped Bertie with his leash, and she'd broken her arm, but that hadn't lessened her attachment to the dog. "I think he's good as gold," Bertie told me, her voice firm. She stood on her front porch watching me as I put my supplies in the car and slid into the driver's seat. She laboriously squatted down by Durwood and made the dog raise his paw and wave goodbye to me. I lifted my hand. I knew from experience that she wouldn't stop Durwood's farewell until I responded. As I thought about what I had to do next, I was almost tempted to turn off the engine and sit longer, listening to the ceaseless stream of Bertie Rossiter's talk. But I started the car, backed out of her driveway, and looked both ways several times before venturing out. There wasn't much traffic on Farm Hill Road, but what there was tended to be fast and careless. I knew that when I drew opposite the unmarked road, I would stop on the narrow grassy shoulder. My window was open. When I cut my engine, the silence took over.